All right, I think that'll bring Corey on in just 1 second. Yeah, Corey is a North Face athlete, trail runner, ultra runner, and we're really psyched to have you on the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
How are you feeling? I gathered from your social media that you had contracted COVID a few weeks ago. How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty decent now. I guess I've been dealing with it for a little over 3 weeks. The first couple weeks of it actually just kind of felt like a bad sinus infection. And so that's what I thought it was. And I was out training in Flagstaff, so I went from sea level to 7,000 feet. So in my eyes, it was just like, a sinus infection with altitude. Um, Turns out it wasn't. So yeah, I had to take a bit of time off running, and now I'm back to about 30 minutes of jogging and feeling decent.
And I don't know how much you want to get into details about how you felt, but I mean that to me, I think a lot of people that it's probably scary, right, to get that positive test result and maybe not know like how bad it's going to get for you. Um, how has that been?
Yeah, so the good thing for me is after already dealing with it for like 2 weeks before I got tested, I felt like the worst of it was hopefully over. Um, But I mean, I had a couple nights where I just woke up in the middle of the night feeling like I couldn't breathe. Just felt like I had like a plastic bag over my head, and I'm like, what's going on? And my resting heart rate wasn't dropping below like 80 beats per minute just for like a week straight. And that was just so weird for me because normally, like I sleep and it's like 35 when I'm sleeping, but
Right.
instead I was waking up and it'd be like 80, 85. And
Wow.
so just a lot of really weird things there.
Yeah, I have a friend, another runner friend that lives up here in Washington, and he was, I think, the first person I knew that got it. And yeah, for a few days there, it sounded horrible. It sounded so scary. And thankfully he's recovered. It's so good to hear that. Sounds like you're recovering and already back to running a little bit. So obviously we hope you continue to get better and better and can run. Um, get back to running fully. That's what a lot of us just love so much, and it's what in a lot of ways kind of makes us feel healthy and happiest is when we're running regularly. um
Absolutely. So yeah, like that's one of the reasons I started just jogging again was just to kind of get that routine back and just feel semi-normal again. Just because it's like that's what I enjoy doing.
yeah, well, yeah, I'm glad that you have that. I wanted to jump into one thing real quick that seems like it's been important to you, and that is of appreciating and getting respect for the Midwest trail runner. It seems like the cornfield cowboys are maybe not as respected as the folks on maybe either end of the coast that have the big mountain ranges. Do you want to talk about your feelings about Midwest trail running and the runners that are there?
Yeah, so I just feel like to train in the Midwest, you have to be an extremely tough athlete. Our summers are hot, super humid, a lot of bugs. Our winters are cold, tons of snow, tons of ice, and like most of us aren't on treadmills. Most of us are still out there just doing our thing. A couple of years ago, it was 40 below in Illinois. Like I've never felt anything that cold before. So, I've just always been, wanting to just prove that like we have a ton of tough athletes here. And we also have like three of the 100 oldest 100-mile races in the country. And so like we just get forgotten about, but I mean, we're still here, we do our thing. And if you look at a lot of the top ultra runners that have moved out west, many of them have actually come from the Midwest.
Right. Yeah. And then so the part of the reason why we're having you on the show today is you have a film that's in our current film festival show, the year end show. We've got 10 different films. There's one in there from Dream Lens Media that they, I guess, did either for Outside TV or with Outside TV. Um, and that features you running over 1,000 miles on the Ice Age Trail, which is there in the Midwest in Wisconsin. And there's some pretty technical stuff. There's some steep hills in there. You know, there's not the really tall mountains like, you know, in the Rockies or the Cascades, but it's still a pretty burly run in large sections. Do you want to talk about what it was like to run that trail in particular, and like how maybe we can maybe dispel some of these myths about the Midwest not being a tough place to run?
Yeah, so in, 1,100 plus miles, there's only like 80,000 feet of elevation gain.
Uh-huh.
So it's one of those just really funny trails where you're like, oh, it's kind of flat. This should be fast. But what you don't realize is the first 350 miles are just this like muddy, rocky, rooty, just like technical trail. And so like it takes people 8, 9, or 10 days to make that turn. And then yet everybody has finished in like 21 or 22 days. And that's just your first 350 miles. But you also have ticks, mosquitoes, just tons of standing water, just dirt, mud. It's just, I don't know. It's one of those trails where you really have to be on your game at the start. And then you
Mm-hmm.
get a bunch of road connectors between smaller trail segments after that first like 350 miles. So then you have to be able to you have to have that road leg speed to make it work. And so I like, I rolled my ankle pretty early into this thing. And so that took away a lot of my trail ability and my road ability. And
Right.
so that was pretty frustrating.
Um, yeah, it seems like one of those places that, yeah, where you want to totally take advantage of the easier, smoother miles, right? But yeah, with that ankle injury, it just, you were, I mean, in the film, you see, you're slowed down to a walk on stuff that you obviously, I mean, obviously in a 1,000+ mile run, you're going to be walking, just like in a 100 miler, you're walking more than you do in a 50K. So in something that long, you're going to be slowing down anyhow. But you could tell that the ankle injury really took. Do you have a desire to go back and try to do it again, fully healthy, to see if you go faster, or do you want to move on to like other projects?
I will revisit it someday. Um, I have other projects I'd like to get started on. This COVID thing is probably going to push some of those back a little bit, but that's okay. But like, I was going to go after the AT this spring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if I'm feeling healthy and ready, then I think that I'll still shoot for an April start date going south to north. If I'm not,
Oh, wait. Oh, sorry to interrupt. Yeah,
yeah.
I thought you meant the other way around. Going
No.
from north to south, which would not be good to do to start in May and April.
No, so that will be south to north if I
Yeah.
start in April. If I'm not feeling quite ready, then I'm hopefully gonna just race something this spring and then go for the AT in the fall going north to south.
You know, um, a little bit of unsolicited advice. There's probably pros and cons of starting in the south, or going in the spring versus going in the fall. I through hiked the entire Appalachian Trail back in 1999, and that's actually how I discovered the sport of ultra running from David Horton and yada yada yada. But I attempted to go for the FKT on just the Virginia section of the Appalachian Trail, which is about 500 miles, a little over a year ago. It was my first dabble into the FKT world, and I was undertrained and I made a ton of mistakes. But one thing that I didn't remember from when I through hiked 20 years earlier was that in the late summer, early fall, especially down there in the south, it was hotter than I remembered, and there was no water in the streams. I was going much longer and longer segments between water, but if you're going to go supported, you won't have to worry about that. There's so many road crossings, not a big deal. But I was going unsupported, and it just seemed like every day I was like running out of water and super hot. So anyhow, love to chat with you off this interview. If you have any questions about running out there or the AT, I'd love to help.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so I did see that you had mentioned something on your social media that you wanted to get into longer FKT attempts, and you'd already done an 1,100-mile FKT attempt. So I was like, okay, he's probably shooting for the PCT or the AT or something like that. So that's really cool. That's exciting to hear you doing that.
Yeah.
Or I mean, eventually, once COVID allows and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the PCT is also on the list. So
yeah, I think they're both great options. I've hiked the whole AT, and I ran different sections of the PCT, and I live close to the kind of the northernmost section of the PCT, and they're both really cool in different ways. PCT being probably a little bit more runnable, and the AT actually being more technical and gnarly. But yeah. One thing in the film, that you talked about was, kind of like what it felt like to be, starting your FKT in early June, with, what was happening in the world, what was happening in the United States, with the Black Lives Matters protests, just really kind of gearing up in late April and early May. What was it like for you to kind of like step away from the real world at that moment and go out and run for 3 weeks?
yeah, it was nice to be able to get out and just be in nature for those 3 weeks and just do that. But at the same time, it's something that was still like on my mind because I was getting like updates from like the North Face was putting out different things and they wanted us to be sharing those. So like I was still kept in the loop of what was going on. And like I just felt it was something that we really needed a positive story of a person of color going out and doing something good. Like we raised over $30,000 for Feeding America just during this, and it just felt really good to be able to be that light in a time of just darkness.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, I think that's, I've never met you personally, but I've followed you through the internet for quite a while, and that seems like that's just who you naturally are, is this light, positive, happy, smiling person that really is a great, I think, ambassador and role model for the sport. And it's just, I think that was a time where our country and our community needed something positive, and it was really cool to follow along as you were out there.
Yeah, it was just funny because when I put up the spot tracker, it's like, oh, it's Wisconsin, it's the Ice Age Trail, like nobody's gonna follow along. And then we were getting like over 5,000 hits a day on my spot tracker just to see where I was. And I was like, are people actually following this thing?
Yeah, totally. I mean, that was a time when, there wasn't a lot of other stuff you could do, and so, yeah, it was good to latch onto something like that. So thank you for providing that inspiration.
Yeah.
For those of you that are just joining, or joined after we kind of got started, we're chatting with Coree Woltering. He's got a film right now in our year-end show of the Trail Running Film Festival. And that film kind of talks about his run of going for an FKT on the Ice Age Trail in Wisconsin. Sorry about that. The idea that for me, I'm a race director as well as an organizer of the Trail Running Film Festival. And I've been a part of this sport since 2001. And, it's a very white sport. It's a very male sport. And lately this year, in big thanks to the Black Lives Matter protests and this awakening throughout the country of injustice and and underrepresentation. I'm wondering if you would be willing to give me and our sport any kind of advice on perhaps ways to increase diversity in our sport. Whether it be people of color or, sexual preference or even just like we were talking about earlier with the Midwest, like getting better representation, I would love to see diversity of, I'd love to see more women involved and stuff like that. So any advice that you're willing to give would be awesome.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to just people feeling welcome in the outdoors. And so, like, luckily, one way that's kind of been changing is companies have actually been showing like people of color and, different sexual orientations and more women in their advertising. Because, for the longest time, it's been a lot of just like, straight white men that they're using for advertising, like camping or running or mountain biking, but it's like other people like to do that as well. So I think that's one way. And then the other way, I think, is a lot of people just say that they don't feel welcome in the outdoors. So it's just even through social media, you can just invite people to come run with you. And hopefully people will take you up on that. And then you can reach out to groups like Black Men Run, Black Women Run, the Front Runners, which is the LGBTQ plus running group. And so that's just, those are different ways that like we can help, race directors can help. And in 2022, Hong Kong is hosting the Gay Games and they have trail running in it for the first time ever. And so I'm super excited for that because trail running in Hong Kong is awesome.
Yeah, we've shown quite a few films over the years from filmmakers in Hong Kong. Robin Lee actually has a film in our current show that features a female runner in Hong Kong. Yeah, they've got some steep, gnarly trails there. That's in the hot and humid, so you'll be used to that.
And lots of stairs. Just
Um,
lots of stairs.
yeah, they're it. I think here in the United States, where we have just normal paths that are super steep and oftentimes switchbacked, theirs are just straight up the mountain, and it's step after step after step. Have you ever ran much in Marin County in the Marin Headlands? You probably maybe have gone to the North Face 50 miler
Yep.
in San Francisco. There's a couple of races there on the Dipsy Trail, and those races start out with like something like 864 steps in the first mile. And that's the only race I can think of in the United States with that kind of stairs. So if you're looking for a place to train on stairs, head out to just north of San Francisco in the Marin Headlands and check that out. Well, we're trying to keep the interviews to about 20 minutes, and we're right about there. What do you I know you're just trying to get over COVID right now, but let's say in the next couple of months, you're totally feeling back to normal, you're training normal again. Do you have like a race on your calendar? You have something you're looking forward to, like in the early spring or something?
Yeah. I was hoping to run Black Canyon in February and
Yeah.
then do the AT starting in April. It's looking like Way Too Cool is probably going to be my season opener, and then we'll just see how I feel from there. Like maybe canyons after that. I don't know, just something.
Cool. I've ran Way Too Cool, and I've heard nothing but great things about Black Canyon. So good luck with whatever it works out, and good luck with the AT. If I don't talk to you before then, definitely reach out if you got any questions. And thank you for being here, and thanks everybody for tuning in. We've had Coree Woltering on the show. He's got a film in the Trail Running Film Festival year-end show. Tickets are still available. Head to www.trailfilmfest.com to get your tickets. Thanks everybody, and thanks Coree.
Yeah,
Feel
thanks.
better.
Yeah.